So this is the Glencore Brenda Mine reclamation site. No unauthorized entry, yeah. So it's a reclamation site, dangerous area, keep out private property. So you can see they're pretty clear about not having anybody around here. I've been up in Nunavut doing other stuff as well, so I haven't really had much of a summer that way. So it's at 24 degrees. You would never have that in Nunavut. And also the trees, guys, you don't realize how much you miss trees until you don't have them anymore. So we're heading on the 97C now, heading up towards Kelowna. We're gonna pass a couple mines along the way. The Nicola Plateau, guys, is a very interesting region for mining and prospecting. It hasn't been heavily prospected. Like, it's had some prospecting, but not too much. And there's a fair bit of mining, like the Brenda Lake facility, the Brenda Lake mining facility, not active anymore. Started in the 70s. They were mining that for a while. It's now shut down, big open pit there. And then we've got the Elk Gold mine, which is currently being mined. Middle of summer though, you can see it's getting dry. Not too dry, luckily, knock on wood. Smoke's going on too bad, or not really bad at all. And then basically keep the forest fires away. This region is not a desert, but it's grassy highland kind of territory. It definitely gets dry and hot here in the summertime. Not my normal vehicle. Oh, what temperature is it? 25 degrees outside. So not like Celsius too. This road, the 97C, the Okanagan connector, it connects Merritt to Kelowna. You can actually get snow on this road. A couple weeks ago, there was a report in the news. They had flurries, snowfall and flurries on this road. Even in like June, July, if it gets cold enough at night, you can get snow up here. We're coming up to the top here, and then once we come into Kelowna, there's a big downhill kind of, typical BC stuff. We're gonna turn here. I see what looks like a dam, an earthen dam. Take the turn off here. Okay guys, so Sasquatch Prospector here. So we are at the Golden Hills Forest Service Road. This is the Elk Gold facility, mining gold here. Mix of open pit and underground mining. It's kind of had issues in the past due to gold prices, but I'd imagine with gold prices getting better, that'll change. It's a 67,000 ounce a year, up to 70,000 gold producing mine. All open pit. But this region here specifically, guys, is an area of something to note when you're prospecting. You can see this is kind of what the lay of the land looks like. Lots of skinny, twiggy trees because we're quite high up in elevation here. Like I said, it gets cold here in the wintertime. The Elk Gold mine is one of the two big mines here along the 97C Okanagan connector. And it's a pyritic sulfide gold in quartz. So that would mean it's a refractory gold, so it will require quite a lot of extraction, which is part of the reason why I think it shut down due to the price of gold, because refractory gold mines are going to be much more sensitive to the price of gold because they're much harder to extract. So it's all viability of mining. When you break it down, when you distill the mining down to its most fine point, the ore may be good, yes. There may be a lot of the ore. All these things are great, but if you don't have road access, if it's hard to extract, as in it's a refractory gold full of sulfides, if it's up a mountain and your season is only 2 months of the year, like in the Lardo, the silver up in the Lardo, like the Silver Cup Ridge, it makes trying to mine very, very difficult. And so the amount of money that you have to put into procurement and your resources and your management of those resources is going to keep going higher and higher and higher. And as it climbs higher and higher and higher, the profit that is to be made off extracting gold becomes less and less and less. And so you get to this point where there's a lot of diminishing returns on extracting the gold, because it's like, well, gold is X price, but it's going to cost us this much to get this gold out. So at the end of the day, is it really worth putting all this money, all this resources, all this time to make a certain profit when, your margin could be a lot higher if it was in a different region and it was easier to extract. So it's a lot of it is just purely business and guys playing with margins and, expectations and yields. A bunch of guys in suits up in the office will decide is this economically viable? Can we make what's called a good business case for extracting this? And if we cannot make a good business case, if we find that, you know what, actually it's not really, the gold here is good, but it's not really profitable in the sense that it's going to require too much work to extract because it's a refractory gold, well, then you kind of have your answer. So just because there's gold in places and just because there's mineralization in places doesn't necessarily mean that a guy's going to walk in there and make it rich. This Elk Gold mine here, open pit mine, this was 17 mineral claims that have been amalgamated. And so a lot of times what guys will do, by guys I mean big companies, Bayshore Minerals happens to be the company that's mining this deposit or was mining the deposit, and it all just closes due to, you know, environmental regulations or price of gold having issues. Basically what it comes down to is there enough gold in this to make it profitable for all the overhead expenses that we are going to accrue by extracting it? And a lot of the times, guys, the answer is no. So these mines are left. Like these 17 claims, what the companies like Bayshore will do is they'll come in, they'll buy up a bunch of the claims, and like kind of in Braylorn, similar thing, and most other places, and then they'll turn it into a big mine, and they'll say, okay, these are our claims, and this is the mine that we want to have. So you're shooting blind a lot of time, guys, with this stuff, because unless you do exploratory drilling and like a ground survey, like a geotechnical survey, and you look into the ground and you actually see like how it's stratified, how all the different layers come into play, there's not really much in the way of knowing. A lot of this stuff is just surface showings, or, you know, guys might have sunk a shaft here or there by hand back in the day, but that's hard to tell because your shaft could be within inches of where the vein is, but if you didn't chase it properly, you didn't send your shaft in the right way, then no dice, right? So it's very, very difficult to mine things accurately because you just don't know where it is. And if you do mine it accurately, it usually takes a lot of money, a lot of drill samples, a lot of ground surveys. This is all cost money, guys. This is science and engineering, and this isn't cheap. And then that will ultimately eat into your profit margin for trying to make money off the gold, right? So it's a hard thing. So the Elk Gold is one of these mines that's been through both. It's had environmental issues because, you know, the environmental regulations now are super strict, as well as just price of gold issues and financing. This region, the Nicola Plateau, especially heading more over towards Kelowna, this is a great region to look for gold, guys, because it's not as well known, it hasn't been as well explored, and so you can potentially strike it rich anywhere, right? Like you look for outcrops, you look for quartz veins, you look for host rock that seems like it'll have gold, and all of these things will kind of help you on your way to finding gold. Alrighty, guys, so we were up at the summit there. Now we're making our way down the hill to first Peachland, which is supposedly the home of the Ogopogo. There's an island just outside Peachland where the Ogopogo lives, supposedly. And the Ogopogo is that serpent, guys, that lives in Okanagan Lake. So we're coming down the mountains. Prospecting over here would be good, guys. There's a few good areas, like I said, around here. Nothing super crazy to write home about. Low-grade copper deposit. There's molybdenum, silver, gold, the Elk Gold facility. There's also mining silver as well, because silver and gold kind of go together. But you can see huge remediation reclamation project. A lot of these old mines, it's hard to really get in there. And like, you know, obviously you can get in there and break the law, but I'm not really going to record myself breaking the law and then posting it on YouTube. I'm not that stupid. But like up here, you know, all around these mountains, it's definitely worth searching. The whole Nicola Plateau, guys, is kind of, people have prospected it, but not really that well. And it's certainly back in the day, they didn't have all the resources that they have now, like drilling programs. So this is the Glencore Brenda Mine reclamation site. No unauthorized entry, yeah. So it's a reclamation site, dangerous area, keep out private property. So you can see they're pretty clear about not having anybody around here. No shooting, no hunting, no bow hunting. You can see there's bullet holes in the sign there. So this was the old copper and molybdenum. There's a big open pit excavation there, and they're digging out copper and molybdenum deposit, and they're basically processing it to get copper. It's a low grade deposit, so it would be sulfides, lots of sulfides, so like a chalcopyrite most likely. Glencore is running the reclamation and remediation. Now, the earthen dam style, big berm almost, or it could be a berm, a big berm though, if it is that. You can see road closed, everything's gated off. So that's the Brenda mine. And it started in the 70s and ran up until the 90s, I believe. And then shut down, just ore deposit depleted. And then anytime their mine is opened up nowadays, even like, you know, nowadays being kind of 70s and forwards, there's a whole reclamation process, remediation reclamation process that goes on, because mine tailings can leach. They have a leaching effect, and they'll leach all these kind of like arsenic and really unhealthy stuff into the surrounding soil and water bodies. And so depending on like where the water table is and, you know, the watersheds in the area, you can have this stuff dripping into creeks and dripping into rivers, which causes a whole bunch of pollution problems. So mine reclamation is it's kind of a thing unto itself, and a very, very detailed, very specific thing where you have to basically test for contaminants, figure out what contaminants you have, and then use environmental science, environmental engineering to kind of get rid of all those things, prevent them from basically causing issues to the environment, right? So it's this whole thing of like testing and just remediation, reclamation, guys. It's very, very important process. So, but this is the Brenda Lake facility, just again, right at the side of the highway there. So if you like this kind of content, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notified, leave a comment, much appreciated, guys. And thanks a lot.